Well, good day and welcome to Predators Proclivity, the podcast where we look at data from the season for the NHL Nashville Predators and make comments upon it. I am your host, Preston Proctor. Okay, so it is late in the playoffs. As advertised, I was not able to get a podcast done prior to my leaving for a little while, and the Predators did lose in 6. Unfortunately, and I did figure that if the Canucks won, it would be 6. If they went to Game 7, I thought the Predators would win. So unfortunately, I guess I was right about that. My other predictions in the playoffs weren't too bad. I had the Rangers in 5 or 6 against the Caps, and they won it in 4. I had the Stars in 5 or 6 against the Knights, and that went to 7. The Stars won, Rangers won, so I at least picked the right teams in those two. I had the Panthers in 7, but they only took 5. I had the Canucks in 6 or Predators in 7. I know I guys kind of went both ways on that one, but I still count that as getting it since I picked the right team and the right number of games. I think I ought to get credit for that part anyway. Then the Hurricanes Islanders, I was all wrong. I had the Islanders in 6, and instead it was the Hurricanes in 5. Go Carolina. At least at this point. And then I had the Jets in 4 or 5, and it was Colorado in 5. The Jets streaky all through the season, and the inverted streak or the wrong type of streak happened in the playoffs for them. They did win the first game 7-6, but I guess that could have gone either way too because that's a lot of scoring. And then I had the Bruins in 5, and the Bruins took 7. And I had the Oilers in 6 or the Kings in 7, just like the Predators, but the Oilers only took 5. So maybe that's just a half point. So it's interesting. The number 1 seeds, I guessed the right team. The number 2 seeds, I guessed the right team. The number 3 seeds, I got the wrong team. The number 3 versus 6, or 3 versus 4 in the Pacific and the Western, and then the number 4 seeds, I guess, kind of had it mostly right. Oilers did in 5, did have the Bruins in 5. They went 7, so I think it averaged out 7, 12 games, and I had 11, whatever. I'm going to count it. Anyway, so that was the first round of the playoffs. And then in the second round of the playoffs, which I did follow on my trip, looked like the Rangers were going to sweep again, and the Hurricanes did battle back. The Rangers, that one I did pick because that matchup was set before I left town. I had the Rangers in 7. They only took 6. So it was close. I at least got the right team, if not the right number of games. The Stars won in 6 over the Avalanche. I have not gone and done the analysis of that, try to figure out what I would have picked. I think I would have picked the Stars. I think they looked better coming into the playoffs. They were 3-1 in the last 4 games, 8-2 in their last 10. Versus the Avalanche, which came in 2-2 in their last 4 and 6. Of course, they did win against the Jets in 5, and it took 7 for the Stars. I think I still would have taken the Stars. I probably would not have guessed 6, but it's hard to say at this point. I'm just guessing what I would have guessed. Panthers Bruins. The Panthers won in 6. That was a tight one. Again, but 6 games for the Panthers. And looking back, the Panthers came into the playoffs 4-0, and their last four, 6-4. They won in 5 against the Lightning. That looked pretty good for them versus Boston, which came in 1-3 and 6-4. Better than the Maple Leafs, but yeah, I think I definitely would have had Florida in that one. 6 games, yeah. When you get to this part of the season, you got to expect tight contests. These guys, they've been playing in the playoffs, and that's what really matters. Not really how you got there, but how you play once you get there. And they all would have won their first round. So predicting a sweep in the round 2 or 3 is a little. You can always do it. It's not a very good bet, I think. And then Canucks Oilers, talk about really not liking a series. Don't really like either of those teams. The Oilers came in 1-3 in their last 4, 4-6, beat the Kings in 5. The Canucks played the Predators. The Canucks came in 2-2 and 5-5, and then beat the Predators in 6. They've owned. I mean, the thing that is hard to take away from that is that they've pretty much owned the Predators this season. They won every game in Nashville. So I think that's a circumstance where the matchup favored the Canucks, not necessarily proving that they were a better team overall in the playoffs, relative to the other teams, but that they definitely were a better team than the Predators. So, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't like the Canucks. I don't care for the Oilers. At least I'm saying it correctly today. Not the Eulers or whatever I was saying before. I don't even want to get there. But good for them. Connor McDavid still has his chance. I think that's going to end soon. I think he's a good player. He's been touted by the entire hockey establishment, winning more awards in his career than a lot of teams have, than I think half the league has in their entire history of winning awards. I'll get to that. That award analysis will be coming hopefully by next week. I want to get this done. It's really interesting. It's one of those things when you start looking at all this data and start analyzing things, it kind of sucks you in. I'd kind of like to get it done and get past this. So so at least I know, I confirm or deny my belief in a bias, and I think I've alluded to it before. I thought it was just an Eastern Conference bias, but it seems like there are Eastern Conference teams and a division that haven't really gotten their due. Kind of surprising to see that Pittsburgh and Washington seem to be two of the teams that also don't really get their due, which is surprising given Crosby and Ovechkin being two amazing players and also players that were highlighted or focused on by the league, but not really not getting a fair share of awards and doing very well in the playoffs and all of that being fine, but don't seem to have gotten the awards you think they would have, which is incredibly surprising. I think at one point in time years ago when Fleury was the goaltender there, and they had Crosby and it was Evgeny Malkin, and they had I forget what the roster was, but you look at the roster of the Pens during that time, and you're looking at the team, and half the team you're looking at going, those guys are all going to be all-stars. They're going to be in the Hall of Fame, and just amazing that the Penguins were able to put those players on the ice at the same time. But just, that team was just years ago, of course, just an amazing list of players. Kind of surprising that they didn't do better. I don't remember what they won. If they won the Stanley Cup, I'm sure they probably did, but I don't remember at this point. I just remember talking to people going, that team is amazing. Just half the players on there are Hall of Famers, future Hall of Famers, and noticing that. So anyway, but that's the award bias is going to be coming up later. But what do we have? We have finished round 2, both the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference, and we are down to the finals in those conferences. In the East, starting tomorrow night on Wednesday, we have the number 1 Rangers, the President Cup winning New York Rangers, playing the number 2 Florida Panthers, actually number 3 in the Eastern Conference, but number 2 because they won their division. The Rangers and the Panthers both being division winners. Carolina was the second team in the East, so Florida's would be the number 2 seed, but the number 3 team. In the regular season, Florida did have the advantage over the Rangers, 1-2 or 2-1. The Panthers won in Sunrise in December and won in New York in March, early March 4th. 4-3 and 4-2, and the Rangers did win in New York at the end of March in a shootout, 4-3. So the Panthers in the regular season have a pretty good record against the Rangers. Now, coming into the playoffs, the Rangers were 2-2 in their last 4, 7-3 in the last 10. The Panthers 4-0 and 6-4. Interestingly enough, the Rangers finished their series 4-0 and 4-2. They had to battle with Carolina to win 4-2. They did get off to a great start, 3-0, and then Carolina came back and won 2. So they did have a little bit of adversity in their last one. The Panthers 4-0, 6-4 in the regular season, and then in the playoffs 4-1 and 4-2. Not a lot of adversity there. They pretty much handled Tampa Bay, and then against the Bruins, they did go 6 games. They did lose the first game, and then came back and won 3 straight, lost 1, and then won. So it's hard to it should be a good series. I'm going to take the Rangers in 6. As I said, the series starts tomorrow night, Wednesday, and then alternates. So Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Mondays. So every other day, no 2-game skip like you see sometimes in the playoffs. Here at the end, here in the conference finals, it looks like that's going to be the way it goes. The Stars and Oilers will be playing on the nights that the Rangers Panthers are not. So they start this Thursday. The Stars are 2-1 against the Oilers this season. And the Stars won in Edmonton 4-3 in November. And then February, the Oilers won in Dallas 4-3 in overtime. And then in April, the Stars won in Dallas 5-0. So they split the games in Dallas. The Oilers had to win in overtime. The Stars won in Edmonton. The Stars won in Dallas 5-0. The Stars were 3-1 in their last 4, coming into the playoffs 8-2 in the last 10. Won their series 4-3 and 4-2. Interestingly enough, Vegas got off to a 2-game lead. The first 4 games in that series won by the visiting team. Strange. Dallas was the only home team not to win their first game in round one. But they did come back in the first 4 games, the 2-2, the visiting team won, and then in the 1-1 part of it, the home team won. And then as the Oilers pretty much handled the Kings in the first round, 4-1. The Kings did win 1 in Edmonton, but that was it. And the Oilers were coming into the playoffs were 1-3 and 4-6, so kind of limping into the playoffs. 4-1 against the Kings, 4-3. Game 7 last night against the Canucks. I think the Stars in 5. I think the Stars are a really good team. I think they're going to take care of these guys quicker than the Rangers will. But since they start the day after their 5th game, then the next night will be 6, so they're going to end roughly around the same time. But yeah, Stars in 5. So I think what you're going to get coming into the Stanley Cup playoffs are going to be the number 1 Rangers versus the number 1 Stars, the number 1 teams out of both conferences. That's what I think. And if you look at the overall records, they are the 2 best teams in the NHL this season. The Rangers had 114 points, the Stars 113, and Carolina had 111, and then Winnipeg 110, as well as the Florida Panthers. So very, very high point teams. The Rangers won 55 games. The Stars won 52. And so then the Stars made up for it with 9 overtime losses and the Rangers 4. So 114 points in the regular season for the Rangers, 113 for the Stars. I haven't done any analysis on that. And I will. I will do that. Before the Stanley Cup Finals, I'll have another podcast. I'll talk about that series. And I know the podcast is primarily about the NHL Nashville Predators. I don't know that there are Nashville Predators that play in another league, but I just said that anyway because I'm just so programmed to say that. That will be a short one. This is going to be a short one because we don't have a lot of data to talk about. Just my musings with regards to the playoffs. So anyway, there we go. Round 3, the conference finals. Rangers versus Panthers. Stars versus Oilers. Rangers in 6, Stars in 5. And the top 2 teams in the league going to the Stanley Cup playoffs. That's my take on this. So, there you go. All right, and as always, thanks for listening. I'm Preston Proctor, and you've been listening to Predators Proclivity.